Welcome back. This, I guess, is the first video of
officially.
Officially, this is season 4 of the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. I'm Christian Harloff.
I'm John Campy. And 2016 was an incredible year. It ended off with, of course, the Schmoedown Spectacular, which was incredible, but it's just done nothing but open the door for 2017.
It sure has. And there's going to be a lot of changes, and there's going to be a lot of things happening. And we've mentioned this too. And I give a lot of thanks here to John Campia for when I was able to pitch this show last year. You got it. You knew right away. Because coming from the wrestling and the UFC background, like, this could be something special, and it really has turned out to be something special.
Well, it's great because we got to see it evolve. The Schmoedown by the end of 2016 looked pretty different than what it did at the beginning of 2016 as it grew and as it developed and as new ideas came, and then culminating in a couple of great programs, whether it was the All Star Wars Schmoedown, then of course the Spectacular in 2 fantastic parts. It just ended on such a high note.
And there's going to be even more in this upcoming season. So this is what we're going to do in this video. Obviously, as you've seen in the title, there is the top 10 rankings of both the teams and singles, so you know the landscape of both of those going into the brand new season. But there's a couple changes, and I'll tell you these real quick. Round 1's going to be a little different, John, and it really stems back to your match that you referenced, the Star Wars match and the Inner Geekdom match. The first round will now have those boards, and everybody will now be getting the same questions. Big complaint from the audience was the fact that, well, how do we know if that person would have had that set of questions, if it would have been any different? Maybe they would have done better if they would have had Roka's set as opposed to the ones that, Riley wound up getting.
Yeah, some of the constructive concerns that we heard from the audience was sometimes some matches, although a lot of it's by luck of the draw, the luck of random number picks, and the luck of that damn wheel. And so sometimes one team ends up with very much one set of questions, the other team maybe might get a much more difficult or much easier set of questions. We found, thanks a lot to your guys' feedback, that if we get into round 1 where the competitors get the same amount of questions, the same questions, we should say, it evens out the playing field while still giving a little bit of a question mark with the wheel spins and the number draws. And we think it's a really good compromise that you guys helped us come to.
Absolutely. And we're probably maybe even looking at, it looks like maybe 8 questions now in the first round, but you all get the same question. So look forward to that change and a lot of other things. There's some brand new events coming. Spectacular obviously did very well. We're going to be doing a summer type pay-per-view.
Yep.
We also have a Rumble coming up. We'll explain more on that in the upcoming season. There's the Ultimate Schmoedown, which is going to have both the team and the singles this year running at the same time later on in the season. So a lot of great things. But let's get to it. Let's start here with the landscape. What a great start with teams. So many great teams that have already showed up. So many teams that are going to make debuts. Teams that we haven't seen. There's going to be brand new teams down the line. But let's start with number 10.
And before you even get into it, that, again, the Spectacular shook things up in the team rankings especially.
So if you look at the King of the Hills, the Kings of the Hill right now in this division, the Patriots. At 3-0 with 2 knockouts, Little Evil, JTE, and the Insnider, Jeff Snyder, are the kings of the division right now because of the match you just mentioned at the Spectacular. They are the champions, and this is the division they are going to be protecting against. Coming in at number 10 is Superhero News. Hector Navarro and Adam Havlik, they are going to be a force. They came very close in beating Team Trek in their first match.
They did. And you know what? When you're talking about Hector is a guy who both in some individual competition and team has come this close. Of course, we all remember his incredible match for the Inner Geekdom Championship that Robert Meyer Burnett impressively swept in at the end and ended up winning. And that team match with Superhero News, razor close. They could cause some damage this year.
Absolutely. And then moving into number 9, you've got 6 Degrees. Brienne and Stacy. Man, another team that just lost to Trek, and they fought really hard. And you look at that score. By the end, Trek won by a significant amount, but it was really closer.
It was closer than the scores led on. You know what? That's going to become a running theme this year, is a team that also lost to Team Trek, which is surprising a lot of people. But you know what? A lot of people didn't give 6 Degrees a chance against the Wangers. When that match was coming out, we thought, well, the Wangers, they're inside guys, and they impressed. They hit some questions that had a lot of people scratching their heads, and they are are for real.
I think that we're going to be going over who some of these people are playing pretty soon. We just want to get through the rankings first to let you guys know what's going on. Number 8 would be the reigning Intergeekdom champion himself, Robert Meyer Burnett. In his team with the big man himself, Big John Schnepp. Team Heroes is the number 8 contenders. They shocked the world starting off by beating the Wolves of Steel.
Yes.
And then they lost their match against the reigning champions, the Patriots.
Yes, which everybody has been losing their matches against the Patriots. But look, we all remember that first match when they got superheroes, heroes as their category, and they were able to run that table. What can these guys do when they face some actual adversity? We're going to find out.
Now, something that'll be a little controversial, too, wondering why, I guess. The Wolves of Steel are the number 7 contenders at 1-1, even though that they lost to the number 8 contenders, but they're coming off of a win. They just won their last match against the Real Rejects. Just scraped by, but they do have a win, and you have Mark Riley, who has been dominating, who's been a dominating figure in the last couple seasons of the Schmoedown, and Clark Wolf, the Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
So it makes sense. They're number 7. That's where they sit.
Well, this is one of those situations where you really do. We try to evaluate teams separately than individuals, but this with Wolves of Steel, you have to take into consideration who the 2 separate individuals are. And they came off that 1 loss, came back with a real nice win, although a little asterisk beside that win with them. Having some very gracious opponents, but the bottom line is they won that match. And if I'm in a team competition, I don't want to look across the table and see the Wolves of Steel.
No, but they also need a win. I don't think that I personally don't think the teams can survive with another loss. I just don't.
Well, look, if they lose to say like a Team Trek, or if they lose to our reigning champions, not so much. But if they go in there and they say play an ETC and lose, if they go in there and play against like a Team Tough Beats and lose, it's going to really damage them and knock them way down the list.
Yeah. Okay. And then number 6, this is a team that has caused a lot of controversy, especially in the Spectacular, and that's Team ETC. Ricky and Elliot, and it looks like Elliot is really carrying this team by himself, because Ricky says it himself, he was absolutely horrendous. One of the worst performances we've seen so far in any Schmoedown match. He seems to be the mouthpiece to Elliot, but Elliot, though, you let that guy loose and he can win matches 2-2, as where they beat Mance when he was on the team when it was Profiles at the time of their first win, and then their second win came against the Real Rejects. So they're still ranked up at number 2.
Sometimes one guy alone can run off enough points to make you respectable. And
is that a Freddie Prinze Jr.?
Well, a little bit of. But hey, let's not take anything away from Freddie. He scored some points on his own as well. But look, when we made the changes to the rules to make sure that team matches really did put a little bit more emphasis on the teamwork between the 2, they're still individual components. And if you don't get both guys rowing the boat, you're going to fall behind. It's going to be interesting to see where ETC winds up.
All right, coming in at number 5, that would be Rotten Tomatoes at 2-2. Now, Rotten Tomatoes, it's funny. You look at what they did against Top 10. You look at what Matt Atchity did in that match.
Yep.
Those guys, their schedules are tough to book down. If they lived next door, these guys could be the champions.
Yeah, they really could. You got somebody like a Gray Drake in there who is, first of all, she is fantastic for this league. Huge, loud personality, but also incredibly smart. These guys could be legit dangerous. Once again, though, it's can you keep competing? Can you get in there? Can you keep yourself sharp? And that's been a question mark, and that's why they probably rank as low as 5.
And then number 4, this is a team that came out of absolutely nowhere, and that's Tough Beats. And the question is, they're 1-0 with 1 knockout. Okay, now the fact that they are sitting there is impressive. When I tell you that Sam Levine and the all-time winning Jeopardy leader is playing, they're going to be playing against a guy that really no one had heard of in Jonathan Boyko.
Just a behind-the-scenes editor here at Collider.
No, the fans weren't sure who he was, and then Perry Nemiroff, who might be the nicest person on the planet, but that doesn't mean that she knows trivia. And it was Clubber Lang Rocky style in the first fight of Rocky 3. They just obliterated them, and the Vulture show that he might even be a competitor in the singles league.
Well, look, here's the thing. It's really funny. I got a little bit of a giggle when people saw Jonathan Boyko, and they said, that's fact-checker Jonathan, because the only time he's been on camera around here is when he was fact-checking for the mailbag shows.
Right.
But look, we all knew around here Jonathan knows his stuff, and everybody knows Perry knows her stuff as well. But look, I would have lost a lot of money on that match.
Most people would have.
I
think Tough Beats would have lost money on themselves.
Yeah, and I tell you what now, there are guys at the top of this mountain looking down and shaking a little bit when they see this Tough Beats team.
I agree, and I think the fans really responded to him, and it was evident, obviously, when you look at the award show that we did when they won the Babyface / the Heroes of the League with only 1 victory. So, and then number 3, That would be myself and Mark Ellis, the Schmoes. We're 4-1, two knockouts, and we lost to top 10 badly. There's nothing around it. They knocked us out. They took the titles, and we haven't been seen since. I might have an announcement about that after we go through the ranking.
Well, look, once again, this is a lot like college football in the sense that you have to take into consideration who you won against and who you lost against. And when the Schmoes got beat and lost their titles, the fact of the matter was they were playing a top 10 team that was on a dominant roll.
Yeah.
Like they were steamrolling over a lot of people and looking really impressive doing it. Not a lot of shame in that loss there. It'll be interesting to see you guys get back in the ring.
And then speaking of which, you've got top 10, the former champions, the Outlaw John Roca and Mighty Matt No sitting up at number 2. I cannot tell you how many texts I get about how they need the immediate rematch. They should be the ones playing for the titles. And, of course, a lot of it coming from, Roca and Nost, very vocal about the fact that they want to be the champions again. They want to play again. They're a great team. That match against the Patriots was great.
Fantastic match.
And Nost said it himself. He's very down on himself. He missed a couple that he probably should have known, thought he should have known, and it went up costing him the match. And I think that the question is, how are they going to come back from that loss?
Well, it's really funny. When you look at losses like that, especially close losses, you obsess about it, and you go over the match, the 20 or 30 questions that get asked, and you think, oh, if only we had done this here, if only we didn't go to multiple choice there, it could have turned out different. Look, they ran into a team, as dominant of a role they were on, they ran into a team in the Patriots that was just not going to be denied. Right. But now we're going to see something that we haven't seen in a while. How does Team Top 10 respond to loss? We saw John Roca rebound from a big loss on an individual thing. Now, can these guys do as a team? Maybe. But they got somebody in front of them first.
They absolutely do, and that would be John Roca's nemesis, Scott Mance, and Jason Inman in Team Trek. Team Trek is only the fourth team to ever start at 3-0.
Yeah.
3 victories right off the bat, beating Superhero News, then beating 6 Degrees, and then beating ETC at the Spectacular. They deserve the shot. They're ready for the shot, and it's going to be a very interesting match because if you go back and look at any match that Scott Mance has lost, it's because he was distracted. He was all over the place. That first loss in the 2015 Ultimate Schmoedown tournament against ETC, he wasn't focused. Jason Inman has done something special with Scott Mance. He's been able to get that encyclopedia that is obviously inside of his brain and get him to focus. You see it in the middle of the match. You're like, no, shh, calm down. And the Mance thinks and he gets it. Inman has been great for Mance.
No, he really has. And when you look at Scott Mance, a lot of people fall prey to the big deception. That Scott Mance is just all this. Right. But guess what? He's done something that only one other guy has done, and that's the champion Dan Murrell. He has beat John Roca one-on-one. Only him and the champion Dan Murrell have done that.
Well, Dan Murrell hasn't played Roca yet. Ellis.
Sorry.
Ellis,
yeah. Ellis, not Dan Murrell. Ellis, who, of course, then went into the Spectacular and took on Dan Murrell.
And that's not a sport who were like, oh, they shot the match already. We did not shoot Roca versus Murrell yet.
But when you pair a guy who's so encyclopedic and steadfast as Jason Inman with a guy like Mance, you're right. Inman is the perfect partner for Mance, and they are doing damage. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think I like Team Trek's chances against the Patriots more than Team Top 10 in a rematch. I think within a couple of months here, I think we're going to see new tag team champions.
Really? All right. Well,
yes.
let's start. All right. So going down the list now, Superhero News is playing Heroes. Now that's going to open up a doubleheader to start the season. We're going to talk about that doubleheader, but if you got Superhero News and Heroes, you have Hector Navarro and that rivalry, obviously, with Robert Meyer Burnett. Hector believes that he should have been the Inner Geekdom champion.
Yep. It's
going to carry over. Do you see Superhero News winning or you got Heroes winning?
Boy, that's tough because in individual stuff you had Robert just edging out Hector. So then I think the question is going to be who performs better in this match, John Schnepp or Adam? Will Adam or Schnepp come more prepared and ready to go? Because I think Robert and Hector are basically going to cancel each other out. In that sense, I'm going to give the slight edge to Heroes. I think Heroes will pull that out.
Yes, I'm going to go the other way. I think Adams.
Can't blame you.
I think Adam's a little stronger in trivia than even a little bit more than a little than Schnepp. Schnepp, who is very knowledgeable as an individual, but when it's come to trivia so far, his recall hasn't been the best.
Well, Schnepp is a great example of that because Schnepp, you can sit down in a conversation with him, right? And he'll talk about cinematographers from films in the 1960s.
Right.
But then you ask him, the very next question, say, who played Iron Man? And he might freeze for a second.
Right.
You never know. It all depends on the John Schnepp that shows up.
So we're going to see. So I'm going to give the edge to Superhero News there. Now, Team 6 Degrees is going to be playing Wolves of Steel. That's going to be a very, very tight match, a lot tougher. I still think that the Wolves of Steel are going to pull this one out, but I think it's going to be a battle.
This is one of those catch matches where one team has so much to lose and one team has so much to gain. 6 Degrees comes out here, performs well, and beats Wolves of Steel. It puts them on the map, and it puts them in the conversation in that top 5 ranking, possibly.
Easily.
However, Wolves of Steel lose that match. You got to start wondering, does Wolves of Steel stay together as a team after
no.
that? I'm
no.
thinking they probably don't. However, they pull off a win, they're right back in the conversation.
They're right back. That's the league. The team league is so young that you only really need about 2 or 3, I'd say 3 victories, and you can get a shot.
Absolutely.
And then we've got ETC going up against Tough Beats. I think this is a blowout. I think Tough Beats knocks them out.
I think Tough Beats knocks them out as well. The one question mark is, again, we said it's a team match, but there are some individual components. If one guy can carry enough points, maybe the knockout doesn't happen, but I just don't see a reality where Tough Beats doesn't at least win this match.
Yeah. Rotten Tomatoes, we don't know yet. There's no match scheduled for them, so that'll be something to look out for. Now, here's my announcement that I was going to make. Mark and I will be playing again. We're playing again, and we will be seeking revenge against Top 10. We're playing them again. I've been talking about in my singles career, I'm on the revenge tour. Well, Top 10's part of that revenge tour. And Mark and myself, Mark's taking a break from singles for a little bit. We're going to talk about that.
He had a good run.
He had a great run. So, but he's going to play. We're going to teams. We both agreed that we need to. We didn't like the way we went out last time against Top 10. So we're gonna play those guys, and maybe that'll give us the winner of the match. Before I move into it, and you can be honest. What do you think? If you're a betting man and I'm not here, you got Schmoes versus Top 10 in a 3-rounder this time.
Well, first of all, this is the appropriate match, really. Like Team Trek, as the number 1 contenders, they deserve that shot first. But then it's only appropriate that the next 2 guys in line, of course being the Schmoes and Top 10, go at it again in a rematch that everybody wants to see. This all depends on how, once again, we brought it up earlier. How does Teton... Now, that's my killer. Yeah. But also, what happens... How do they deal with that loss? How do they deal with losing those titles? Because I'm telling you, I was with Matt Nose and John Roca after the spectacular was done. They were devastated. Yeah. They loved holding those belts. Yeah. They do not like losing them. Here's the thing. Do I think that this next match is going to be a knockout? No, I think you guys hit a very bad run in that match, and I do not see there being a knockout, but I will slightly give the edge to Top 10 right now. Roca's got that chip on his shoulder right now. It's going to be a tough one. I think it's going to be extremely close.
And lastly, so you're going to have Team Trek at 3-0 going up against the reigning champions, the Patriots, 3-0, and we're going to be having a title week. So what title week is going to be, you're going to have all 3 of the championships. In February, this is going to happen. You will have the Inner Geekdom Championship defended. You will have the Singles Championship defended. And you will have the Team Champions defended all in the course of a week. And that match will take place in one of those spots. Trek or Patriots, you're saying that Team Trek is going to be the new champions.
Look, if I could make a shirt right now, it would say, I believe in JTE. I believe in... I don't know that there's a more entertaining guy in this league that I love seeing on camera more than JTE. And you know what? Deserving champions. I thought they performed so well. They've been on a great roll. But I think Team Trek has got their number. I think Scott Mance is going to be a wild card in this thing. I think he's going to be incredibly tough to beat. And yeah, my prediction is Team Trek right down to the final question, but Team Trek walks away with the belts.
Yeah, see, we're on opposite sides again. I just think, and that could happen because they are on a roll and they are really good. I just think there's something magical about this Patriots team.
Dark magic.
It's dark magic. I know that people don't love him. They love to root against him. But Jeff Snyder obviously proved that there's a wealth of knowledge there, and JTE is the wild card. But they work so well together. They work so well together, the vibe that they have, and they're so fun for the league. I'm going to say that the Patriots are going to wind up playing either myself and Ellis or top 10, and they're going to be champions. They're going to be the first team to actually defend the belts. That's going to happen.
It's been a while.
No, it's never happened. No team.
Oh, there's not been a successful title defense. That's right.
There's never been any title defenses in the team league. It's been changing back and forth.
Once again, going to my pick for Team Trek. Then.
That's right. All right, now we're going to get into the singles league. This is the league that really has built the brand new league as it is.
Yes.
And we've got some great competitors here. There's a lot going on. Let's start with the number 10 contender, and that is, he's changing his name. He was formerly the Sheriff. He's now the Godfather, Drew McWeeny.
Ooh, I like
which
that.
makes sense if you think about what he's done in the movie, the online space. Drew McWeeny. I think Drew McWeeny, when he played against Matt Nost,
Right.
I think that people didn't realize some of the questions that he got, though, too, but in the way that he pulled certain things out, he is solid. He's someone that you're going to see. I don't know if it's within 6 months or a year, but he's going to be in title contention sooner than later.
Well, look, here's the thing. I can't ever remember in the history of, at least the recent history of the Movie Trivia Schmoedown, where like literal tremors went through the league when we found out Drew McWeeny was coming into the league. It reminded me as a UFC fan when they first announced Brock Lesnar is coming into the UFC, because everybody knows what Drew McWeeny brings to the table. Now, the only question mark was, how would he perform under the lights? Everybody knows the guy's an encyclopedia. How will he perform under the lights? He walked in against a strong competitor in Matt Nost, won his match, and now I think a lot of people are just wondering, how long is it going to be till this guy's competing for a title?
Yeah, and then number 9, a guy that is, if you're talking that McWeeney's Brock Lesnar, this dude is Goldberg. It's the Beast, William Bibiani. There's never been a guy that's risen to superstar status like he has, because he breaks the single record when he comes in. He joins the Horsemen right afterwards. He wins Entrance of the Year. He gets nominated for Rookie of the Year. People are already saying he's the heir apparent to Dan Murrell. They're already touting this guy as the best. I mean, if you look at the polls, whether it's on the Facebook page or wherever it is, people love the Beast. If he's got a match coming up, but he's got a chance to rise to a title shot really quick.
Look, put it this way. Dan Murrell, our reigning champion.
Yeah.
5-0. He's beaten the likes of Mark Ellis. He's beaten me. He's beaten everybody he's come across, including our Rookie of the Year, Classy Clark Wolf, right? And yet Dan Murrell has never scored as many points in a regulation
in a
three-round match as the Beast has scored. Nobody in the history of our league has scored as many points in his first match. And it wasn't in some walk-away match. He was doing it with a competitor in Andraco nipping at his heel, who ended up scoring the 3rd highest total in the history of this thing in the exact same match. So he proved he can rack up the points, and he proved he can do it under pressure with a competitor right at his heels. Look, the only reason, let's face it, that Bibiani is not in the top 4 or 5 at this point is because of that single number 1 match.
Right.
Was it an illusion? Was it a fluke?
Right.
A lot of us doubt it, but we won't know until he gets in the ring again.
That's very true. And then number 8, it's a bummer to say, but the Snyder, Jeff Snyder, who was also a candidate for Rookie of the Year, he could have easily been going for that title shot had that Chris Stuckman match gone the other way.
Yep.
Snyder was rattled. Snyder did not play well in that match, and Chris Stuckman had a great day, and Stuckman beat him. And Snyder, comes back, wins the team titles, obviously, but because of it, Snyder's a 2-2. But don't let that 2-2 fool you. That is a dangerous, dangerous competitor.
Yeah, and look, and I think a lot of us are surprised. Like, all due respect to Chris Stuckman, who is great, but he's a rookie, came in here, and it's not like Chris scored 22 points. The victory was there for Jeff. Unfortunately, he might have had his attention on that tag team title. He might have had his focus elsewhere at that point. I'm going to be really curious to see how well he rebounds coming back. I expect a strong year, but I don't see an individual belt hanging around his shoulder anytime soon.
All right, coming in at number 7, it's the wild man, Josh McCouga. And I hate to say this, the only reason that he was at number 4, I got a chance to beat him. I got my revenge. I will say, I'm proud to say, I'm the only person to TKO or knock out Josh McCouga, because that's not an easy task. I'll tell you that.
This is a guy that pulls answers out of his ass, out of his nostril, out of every orifice that you can possibly imagine. They just come somehow.
He is one of the best things to happen in this league because you look at his losses. He lost against Mark Riley in 2014, and that was by 2 points. Just lost, almost was the champion.
Yep.
Lost against Mark Ellis in Ultimate Schmoedown. Lost against Roca by the last question. Lost against Clark Wolf. He's lost against some solid
competitors. And he avenged that one loss against Clark Wolf
did.
as well. But it's like we say all the time, not every loss is equal to other losses. Makuga, you look down our list and you see one guy who stands out above anything else at 5-5. More matches than anybody else in history. And those losses, you think, 5 losses. Look at the list. It's a who's list of the people he's lost against. He plays
everyone. There's a reason why he's a guy that he has the most matches in Schmoedown history. There's a reason why, because you can't go in there thinking, he's just a goofball, I'm going to beat him. He has the best educated guesses that has ever happened in this league. The guy is absolutely someone to be scared of.
And out there right now, there's a urine-soaked cat that is cursing the name of Josh Makuga.
That's right. Number 6, that would be the inglorious one, Sam Levine, sitting at 3-2. And Sam Levine also another candidate this year for Rookie of the Year. I think the only reason Sam probably didn't win this thing, Rookie of the Year, is because of the expectations that were put on him right away.
Yeah.
When we heard Sam Levine was going to be in this, everyone said, this is your next champion.
Yeah.
There's no way he's going to kill everybody. And then he showed he's human. He absolutely can lose. He lost against Ellis. He lost against Clark Wolf.
Yep.
And, in his last match, he beat Finstock. He's 3-2 now, and he needs a big victory to get himself into title contention.
Well, it wasn't just the name coming in. He also, when he first put feet down on the ground here, he looked like everything was as advertised. I mean, he looked strong. He looked powerful. I thought, you know what, the way Classy Clark Wolf and Sam Levine look, it's going to come down between the two of them. But like you said, the rush has been cut. It looks like they started to show they're human a little bit, especially Sam. It's going to be interesting to see how he rebounds this year.
And talking about rebounding, we got the number 5. We have the Rookie of the Year herself, the classy one, Clark Wolf. What a rise Clark Wolf had. 3 straight victories, wins her first 3 matches, and steals 3 title shots away from the competitors she fights.
Impressive competitors.
Really impressive. And then gets the title shot against Dan Murrell in her rookie year. Doesn't go the way that she wants it to, but then she makes it into the Ultimate Schmoedown tournament, earning the Rookie of the Year status. But she's lost the last 2 matches. She's had a shaky team league so far. The confidence needs to come back for Clark Wolf. We need that confident Clark Wolf to come back. She needs that victory to compete once again and show us what she did in the beginning of last season.
And I'm almost thinking, you and I talked a little bit earlier about the fact that should we see Wolves of Steel lose again, that maybe that team should call it quits. I'll tell you what, I for one, and all credit to them if they win their next team match, I for one wouldn't mind seeing a more focused Clark Wolf on her individual stuff. I think those first 3 wins were not flukes, folks. Those were against heavyweight competitors, all who were lined up for title shots, and she ripped it all away from them. I'd like to see her get back to that pinnacle again.
Absolutely. And number 4, that's me. That's myself. That's Christian Harloff, 4-3, 4 knockouts. I'm proud to say that I am right.
When you win, you win big.
I win big. I got those 4 KOs. Nobody has that yet, but I have a funny feeling someone could do it sooner than later. But I'm proud to have it. I've been fighting for that spot. I get to the 5 or the 4, and then I get beat by somebody, and I get knocked right back down. But I'm back up there. I need a nice victory here in order to get myself back up on top.
Well, look, we already talked about Josh Makuga, how tough he is, how he brings it. And you getting that win over Josh Makuga, I think put a real stamp that you're back, you're in this top 5, you got a big mountain in front of you still with a lot of competitors still up there, but it's really good to see you get that win against Josh.
Yeah, I'm excited to do it, and I've got a couple people that are in my targets, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Coming in at number 3, that is the former champion, Yodi, Mark Riley, at 6-3. He could easily be 7-2 right now. He had the match. He looked great. The best
against Roca.
After he lost to Dan Murrell, it looked like he was shot. It looked like he was rattled and he couldn't get himself back. Then the spectacular happens, and he comes out in the James Bond tux, and he looked just like he was dressed, smooth.
He was a machine.
He looked great, like he's going to murder Roca, and it just didn't happen. But Riley should not hang his head, because what a victory that was. But once again, he needs a big victory. He needs another 1 or 2 before he gets another title shot.
Well, you're right, and even the fact that he is 6-3 because of the role, he does need a couple of wins to get back to that title contention. But that match against Roca at the Spectacular, it was there, and his own fate was his hands. It was his question. He just needed to hit that question. He wins. He has the glory. We're talking about Murrell versus Riley too.
Yeah.
It would have been amazing, and it's a question that he now kicks himself that he did not get. He knows he should have got that question. It's going to be interesting how he responds. But I'll tell you this, I do not envy anybody who's going to be going up against Mark Riley this year, because he's got a mission. He's got some point he wants to prove, and I think he's going to do it.
It's very possible. All right, and then right now, the number 2 contender is Mark Ellis, sitting at 5-2, and deserved to be there. He had an amazing, amazing run. I mean, he was 2-2, I think, going in, or maybe even no, he was 1-1 starting the league this year.
Going into the tournament, yep.
And then he beats JTE. Then he gets himself into the tournament, and he wins the tournament. Second year in a row, he's won the tournament. What a run for him! And he's the only person in this entire league to take Dan Murrell to that last
final question. Yeah.
And what a match that was. Mark Ellis is clearly one of the best in the league, and if you put him up against Dan Murrell again, I say he's got a shot. However, he's told me he's taken a break from singles. He said he did. He said he did a lot. He wants to focus on some of the helping with the questions. He wants to do some more stuff internally for the singles league. He said that the team league he's going to compete in, but he wants to take a step back. So if that's the case, if he tells me that by the next time we do this special, we're going to have to take him out of the top 10.
Well, look, you have to sit back and understand, as a singles competitor of the year that Mark had, he had that impressive start. Then he had the incredible run in the tournament where he wipes the floor with everybody, gets into the championship match, and down to the final question, and to lose it there. And you know he's not just going to get another title shot. There are other people in front of him. Does he really want to start climbing the ladder again at this point, when he's got some unfinished business in the team division as well, with you guys losing the titles the way that you did, and you guys have your eyes back on that prize again? I don't blame it at all, but I'm guessing at some point in 2017 we will see Ellis step back into the ring again.
I wouldn't bet against it, but I also know him. He's pretty stubborn. And then finally, the number 1 contender. Finally, he gets to hear that. It's the outlaw, John Roca. And if it wasn't for Dan Murrell, you could easily make a play that John Roca could have been player of the year, right up there with Mark Ellis also. But John Roca at 5-2, we did that best of special to where it was the fall and rise of John Roca. Because when you start off with that, Bespin, and you've said it many times, easily could crush somebody's entire career here.
Yeah.
It did the opposite for him. It fueled a fire. He talked about, I'm going to get all the belts, I'm going to get all the records. That's the quote. And he creates the outlaw persona. He creates the 4 horsemen. He wins the team titles. He says he's coming after, he almost wins the whole tournament. He says he's coming after Murrell. He beats Riley in that match we were just talking about. And now he's sitting pretty. He's got a shot, and we're going to see him face Dan Murrell.
You know, when it came down to it, it kind of played out poetically the way it should have. When it came down to the Schmoedown tournament, it came down to Roca, who walked through his competition, got to that finals against Baby Carrots. Baby Carrots stunned a lot of people by pulling that one out, made us realize just how good he is. Right. But now we are where Roca always said. He said he was going to get all the belts. Well, he already had one hanging over his shoulder. He's got another big one to hang over his shoulder. And then at some point, he'll probably make a run at the Inner Geekdom.
Right.
I don't know how I feel about his chances against Dan Murrell. Yeah. He did, under the biggest pressure and the biggest lights, the championship of the Movie Schmoedown tournament, he faltered.
Couldn't do it.
He couldn't do it. And now he's walking into a guy who does not blink under the big lights. Every match Dan Murrell faces is for the title. He knows this pressure. He is calm under the pressure. Roca has shown he can be rattled.
Yeah. Well, and then, of course, that is the king of the jungle himself. From the Lion's Den, I can't believe I'm saying that, Dan Murrell is the champion at 5-0 with 3 knockouts. The king of the hill. He is easily player of the year. There's been no one better than him, with the exception of Mark Ellis. He has been dominant. He's dominated everyone that he has faced. He is a great champion. He is someone I am proud to have as our champion.
It's great.
The way he carries himself, he's a really good champion, and he's faced the best. So I loved his line to Roca, though, when he said, you know how, because Roca started talking smack to him, as Roca does, and Dan said, you know how this works, right? Someone beats you, and then I beat them.
Which is exactly what he's done.
Many times.
Yeah, look, Dan Murrell has been one of the best things to happen to the Movie Trivia Schmoedown start out. I mean, look, we launched this whole thing here on the Collider Wing this year with me versus Dan Murrell. Dan Murrell showed just how tough he is in that match, and then he went on to prove that wasn't a fluke. As he
beats Mance, beats Clark Wolf, beats Mark Riley, beats Mark Ellis. I mean,
yeah, he's gone through the proverbial who's who. Clearly the player of the year. Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, it would have been very interesting to see that, understanding the role that Roca was on before he met Mark Ellis. had he beat Mark Ellis and gone in against Dan Murrell on that kind of role, and you know where Rocha's confidence would have been, and where his cockiness and where his strut would have been.
I don't know.
That would have been interesting.
Maybe, but I mean, Woody would run into the same problem. I think the lights got to him against Ellis. I think another loss, maybe you kind of put him in. It's going to be very interesting, but we're going to get to that match in a second. Let's talk about some of these matches that are coming up. All right, so Drew McWeeny, who's he going to play? He's going to play someone that would easily rank number 11 or 12 if we were doing those rankings, and that's the killer, Mike Kalinowski, who had a nice debut. Nobody really knew who Mike Kalinowski was, but McWeeny versus Kalinowski, that's going to show who the new competitor is. I think Mike is a really skilled competitor. I just don't know if he's going to be able to hang with the Godfather.
No, look, McWeeny is the guy that I'm predicting by the end of 2017, he's either going to be the champion, ranked number 1 or ranked number 2. He's going to be in there in that conversation. I just got to give it to McWeeny.
All right, and then the Beast, William Bibbiani at number 9. He's going to be going up against Little Evil JTE, who sits at 3 and 5. Obviously not ranked right now. People are like, why? Why are you doing this? Because JTE is a guy, he's part of the team champions. He wants a chance to get himself back in singles competition. If he does it by going after other lesser opponents, it's going to be a long road back. If he can beat Bibbiani, if he can beat the Beast, then he's right there. But if Bibbiani gets to 2-0, Bibbiani will be playing the winner of another match I'm going to be talking about in a moment here if he can beat JTE.
Look, 3 and 5 is a very deceptive number with JTE. Once again, he's got a belt over his shoulder, which is something that John Rocha doesn't have right now. On top of that, his losses are a symphony of overtime sudden deaths and final question losses against, well, maybe the Olympic gold medalist is one he should have won, but against some very impressive competition. He always takes them right, including Baby Carrots. Took that right down to the wire. Sudden death, he lost that thing because he couldn't hit the buzzer fast enough. Look, JTE, do not sleep on this guy. But much like I said with McWeeny, Bibbiani is a guy who, I'm not going to say champ 1 or 2, but champ or number 1 by the end of this year. He's going to be there. The question is he going to be able to get enough matches under his belt to get there? A big win over JTE, a dominant win over JTE, probably thrust him into the top 5.
Could absolutely could happen. Number 8, no match scheduled right now for Jeff Snyder at 2 and 2. I'm sure one of those, something will happen sooner than later, but nothing yet scheduled for Snyder. Obviously, he's got a match coming up in teams. All right, now this one is big. This is Josh McCouga, who is at 5 and 5, could easily have played Jeff Snyder or someone else, but he couldn't let the vendetta against Finstock go. Finstock, who said he's never going to compete in singles ever again, and McCouga calls him out in a retirement match. And how this is going to work is like this. If it's just McCouga, if he loses, will retire from singles competition because he's forming a TV talk team and they'll be able to compete in team. But if he loses to Finstock, we will not see Josh McCouga in singles competition for a year. If
the most prolific competitor that the league has ever had
will not compete for a year. Finstock. If Finstock loses, he is banned from the Schmoedown building for a year. He will not be able to manage anyone. He won't be able to compete. He won't be able to harass anyone for a full year. John, who wins this match?
Wow. I mean, look, Finstock is one of these guys. Look, when he went into his match against John Schnepp earlier in 2016, a lot of people thought, cakewalk, John Schnepp. And look what happened. Finstock came out, surprised some people. I've got to give this McCouga. McCouga's got the experience, he's got the know-how, he's got the knowledge, and I just don't think he wants to go a year without competing in singles. It just means too much to him, so I'm going to go with McCouga.
I've competed against both of these guys, McCouga twice. McCouga wins this easily. I like Finstock. I think he's great and fun for the league. I think he should have said no when I think McCouga
should not have accepted that match.
He got a lot of passion in there, and Finstock, I know he always has something he's doing, but no, I got McCouga winning this pretty easy, and then we see Finstock take a hike.
At the end of this match, you're going to see Josh McCouga pointing at Finstock and going, bottom line,
you're a loser. That's great. All right, and then number 6, the Inglorious One, Sam Levine, who needs a big match. He needs a very big match in order to get a chance to get closer to that title we all thought he was gonna get. Well, he's got it because he's going to be playing the former champion Mark Riley. That's a match. Sam Levine against Mark Riley. That's going to happen. The winner of that will get the winner of JTE and William Bibbiani. Then winner of that will probably get a title shot. I
tell you what, the possible combinations here, they're all delightful. Like every possible combination here is great. And you know, beginning of 2016, we're talking about Riley versus Levine. That's going to be a big title match in 2017 or at the end of 2016. Didn't work out that way. I'm going to be watching this match with a bucket of popcorn.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for this match, Riley and
What do
Levine.
you got?
You know what? He lost, but he lost with power. I gotta go Riley right now. I gotta go Riley.
I'm gonna go with Riley also. I think Riley. From what I've seen out of both their game, I think Riley's game is a little stronger than Levine's.
Yeah.
All right, and then Mark Ellis obviously said no match for Mark Ellis as of right now. So we will see what happens with Baby Carrots. Then there's the big one. John Roca going up against dangerous Dan Murrell. Happens in that championship week I was talking about earlier in the video. If it depends on what I think you put that blindfold back on if you're John Roca. You put that blindfold back on because you were talking before about he was rattled when he got into the big game against Ellis. He was rattled, although he played well, he still lost the team titles in the first title defense. Can he hang with Dan Murrell? Dan Murrell has shown nothing phases him.
Well, look, let's not forget that we talked about how Bibiani came in, took that single point record. That was held by one Mr. John Roca, I should say. John McCouga. John Roca held that title. He has scored 21-plus points in a 3-round match. If that Roca can show up, we're going to see a title match that goes to the last question again. And once you get in there, it's a coin toss. Does he have a shot? Yes, he has a shot. Am I putting my money on John Roca? No, I am not. I think right now, everybody else who lines up in front of Dan Murrell are simply placeholder contenders until we see the Beast Bibiani or Drew McWeeny get up there and maybe finally dethrone Dan Murrell. But I think Dan Murrell, for at least the next couple of months, is going to be the champion of this league.
I hate to say it, but only because I do like to see dreams come true, and I know it is a big dream for John Roca. I don't see him being the guy to break the glass. I just don't see it happening. But I would like to see a great match. I think we'll see a great match. That's going to happen not too long from now in February. What a league. What a start. We're going to have a lot of stuff happening this league, and it all begins on January 20th with the doubleheader. The Beast and JTE headlining. And on the undercard, we've got Team Heroes versus Superhero News in the first video of the year, the Schmoedown. We're back. John Campia, Christian Harloff. We can't wait to see you guys. Go back and watch some old matches before the season begins. It's going to be great.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.